Hi, this is Dear Damson with Damson Books, and today we are going to do another Van Gogh, and this one it's called Farmhouse Among Trees. It's not super popular, but I love it, and it could be anywhere between beginners to advanced. All right, let's begin. I already poured the paint, so in the description below I will list all the colors that I'm using, and also I have pre-sketched my canvas, but really fast. Again, I'm gonna explain what I did. The sketch is really simple. We have three buildings, a small one, medium one, and a larger one. We have a background which is trees, and then we have foreground, which it seems to me like there is dirt, a river passing by, and everything is in this beautiful warm reddish browns. The background is bluish greens with a little bit of olive color in it. So, and he has painted this with oils. We are going to do acrylics, but his painting is, it's very thin, which means he probably used a lot of turpentine to water it down. So let's do this. We have this part is the ground that the houses are sitting on, and the top part is the sky and the trees. We have the house, which is almost centered. It's a little bit to the left, and we have a small building right next to it, and another building that is, this is your middle part of the canvas, under the middle. And we have simple shapes, triangles, and we have rectangles, triangles and rectangles, trapezoid, and you want to create the slanted angles to create the illusion of space, close and far. And again, we can go a little lower from this point to tiny bit, barely visible, because it's, this one is a little bit closer to us, to create that illusion of depth. Same thing, rectangle, triangle, trapezoid, and you can put another rectangle right here. So it's super simple. We have the river coming around, two lines next to each other, almost starting closer, stretching a little bit apart, and continuing down the canvas. Trees, they're just lines going upwards, and obviously we don't want to make them straight, so we kind of gonna follow where he placed his trees. But remember, this is going to be your Van Gogh, so if you change something a little bit, is totally fine. Background on the top, I have a blue sky, a very light blue sky, and then he has clouds build up in this area, but also we have kind of the trees are on top of it. So obviously we're going to start with the sky. We're going to make it really light, so I'm using white and a little bit of blue, and his blue is much different than what I'm getting here. So let's see. I almost don't want to get another color, so I'm gonna try to create that blue. So what I use, which is it could be very interesting, I use let me put my glasses on so I can see what is going on here. All right. Oh wow, I can see. So I'm using the yellow ochre a little bit tiny, barely touched it, and put it into my white together with, actually I used a little bit of both blues, and one is ultramarine and that one is Phthalo Blue, which is, it has a red shade in it. So I could have just used the ultramarine blue and I think this color is good, and the ochre and white, because it's much lighter sky. And I'm gonna build it up using water, and again I'm painting on paper, acrylic paper. And there is my sky, and I'm gonna try to keep my paint thin too. I'm not gonna try to thicken it. And as soon as I say that, every time in my head is like, why not? So if you decide to do a little bit of thicker version of this painting with more paint, please do. Create your own version of Van Gogh. You're gonna maybe learn something, and if you do, please let me know. So I am going to use ochre and white and tiny bit of the yellow and create this clouds here. And this is just the tip of the clouds, or the top of the clouds, and I'm gonna get a little more white. And my brush is not clean. Like you can see, it has a little bit of the blue in it, and also the white and the ochre. And I'm moving it kind of sideways in a circle. I want to create that fluff on the clouds. He has a little bit more yellow in his clouds, so I'm gonna go for a little bit, tiny bit more yellow. It looks like more ochreish. And I haven't painted this one, so you're pretty much seeing me working with something for the first time. And a lot of times that probably is a good thing. So you can see there is a way of kind of experimenting on the go. So I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna climb some of the clouds up high. This one's gonna go way up high, get a little more white, and I might touch them up a little bit later. Okay, so we have beautiful clouds here. Love what's happening. I'm gonna get another flat brush, and this is number 7. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a green. I'm gonna use green and blue and a little bit more yellow, tiny bit of white, because our background actually it's very light. So instead of me just going for the green because it's green, I am going to use green plus blue, a little bit of yellow because blue and yellow will create green, but also I'm making my own color. I'm giving it more life. A little bit more of the green. This is a beautiful green. A little bit more green. So I want to see that blue into my, and I need more white. So I'm moving away from, if you see me mixing the colors, I started right here. It was too dark. I started moving away, adding the green. Now I'm adding white to it. And I put one line. I knew I'm way too dark, comparing myself to the rest. And I think I'm gonna go even lighter because this looks like a good color for the stems of the trees, for the trunks. But I also have some sort of a greenish hue behind them. So let's get more white. I'm using a big tube of white. Okay, and I'm gonna go in here and add this greenish hue. So it's lighter version of the color I created for the tree trunks. And going all around the houses. And it's interesting how I can see he absolutely went around the houses with this green blue. Now what this in my head represents is combination between not that thick of a forest or trees, foliage with sky on the background. So that greenish blue, it's a combination of two things. Green from the trees and blue from the sky. So I am going to go here, this, and I don't want to make it, I want to blend this line. I'm using a little bit of water, getting my lines nice and clean here, and even if they're not clean, it's still okay. We have been going. I totally deleted my clouds, so do you see how I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna add some cloud in here. This one goes much higher, and then we have a bigger one right here. Okay, I just love working on Van Gogh's paintings and observing them for the first time. It's really interesting for me to just see his brush strokes and just trying to figure out what was he saying, because I don't see the same way. So when I am working with the way he sees things, it's just adding to my imagination. So I'm going to get a little bit of black, a little bit of brown, red, and I'll mix it right here. So I need to create a yummy dark color, and I just want to try and see. Yeah, that is good. I even probably gonna add a little bit of yellow, because it does have orangey hue to it too. A little bit of orange. There's the lines. There's this part of the house. So there's dark parts and light parts, and obviously that represents shadow, light, I hope. That's what he was planning. There is a part here that's darker. Then we have another part from here that's a little bit darker. This roof seems dark. And inside here is dark. We have a little bit of a lighter area in the middle, so I'm not washing my brush, but I feel like I need to warm it up, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of red and yellow on my dirty brush. So it's going to be a dirty red and yellowish. Let's see. Yes. I need a more orangey orange, so I am going to take, I think I have that one. I'm going to take, is that what I have? Yes, that's what I have. Gonna get this red. Yep, much brighter red. Let's see if I can get a little bit brighter orange with that. And again, I am not washing my brush. I'm just letting the colors play out. Let's take a little water. There's that orange line here. And this part is pretty orangey. And my bracelets are just driving me crazy. Alright. is more muted. Orange. Then there is almost like brown here. So again, moving between the colors without mixing and observing my painting that I'm looking for, my sample painting. Just start thinking a little bit too hard here. I'm observing the sample and looking back and forward and just adding little by little specks, little lines, representing elements from that painting and building it up slowly and surely. So let's do this one. Too black, so I'm gonna get a little bit of the brown and kind of go over. Love it. What's happening here? Let's add that too. And the more brush strokes you leave, the more interesting it is. So don't try to erase your brush strokes unless you want to. Of course, painting is one of those personal things. You can do your own little style. You can have everything perfectly smooth, or more Van Gogh style with a lot of tons of brush strokes. It could be anything your mind can create. No limitations. That's the beauty of art. The more different you are, the better. And like most painters, they will go around and see what other painters are doing. They're gonna experiment with their styles, and that's why if you follow their lives, you're gonna see how their style is transforming and evolving. So there is a lighter color, so I'm putting a little bit of a lighter base here, and I'm gonna go back to the orangey brown. And I'm going to add this and also on the side of the house. Let's get a little more. So do you see how I'm using a flat brush? I'm using all the sides. I'm using the big side, and also if you flip it sideways, you can use a smaller side. A flat brush can help you creating more straighter lines faster versus a very thin brush. So I will rather use a flat brush to go and create lines than using a small round brush. So I'm going to get this a little darker. So instead of mixing the color, I just grabbed a little bit of the brown with the ton of red brown I had and just went for it. And if I didn't like it, if I see it that it's not something I want to use, I'm gonna back off right away, and I'm going to change my color. I'm not gonna just keep going with the color I don't think it's the right color. There is that. There's a tiny bit of a spot here, so we're gonna add that spot. And this one here, it's going to get a little bit of a lighter version of that. Let's get a little of the brown. So I'm pretty much using, I haven't used the blues and the greens much, but I really started using the browns and the reds and obviously the white. we still gonna use the greens and the blues for the trees, but I just wanted to put kind of like almost like a base for my house or houses. Line. This part here is a little darker. And this is more orangey. Let's make it more orangey, but it's not a clean orange. So there's a curve to this roof here, and it goes all the way to the ground. And then we have a chimney here. And I'm gonna get and when I'm loading the paint, when I want to create something flat on my brush, I'm loading it both sides, kind of like almost like wiping it, so I'm not digging into the paint, but I am loading both sides of the paint. So I'm creating this perfect edge, so I can go in here and create this fence and not overwork it. Okay, a little bit of brown and red right here. A little bit in front of this house, fence, more transparent color right here, and I'm going to get the brown. And sometimes with the brown you have to be careful depending on the brown. If you put yellow in it, green's going to start showing up. It really depends on how your color is made or what's in it. So depends on that, because a lot of times you think, oh, brown and yellow, that's a good combination. It really depends on your brown. So the brown I'm using, it's I think it's raw umber. Yes, it is. And I have seen in so many paints the raw umber and the burnt umber looking very, very different. So this is why a lot of times I would like to experiment with my colors. Okay, so I'm going to create a ledge here, or a line, and a line here. Also a line here. I'm going to take yellow on my dirty brush, and there is like a big yellow area here, orangey. So I'm going to take a little bit of the red, too much red. And build this up, and also there is more yellow orange right here. Right up front of this house. It's almost like it's lifted up, so either the sun is hitting it a little bit more than the rest, or the rest is more muddy. So too much red, so I'm gonna have to like scoop some of that out. So that's what happens with accidents. Easily fixed if you paint this. I'll just place my base and I can change it later. So let's put a little bit of brown here. And I'm moving my brush kind of side to side, obviously following the river here. But when I'm dealing with a surface, most of the times my brush, it will go side to side because I want the eye of whoever is looking at it to be fooled, or to give them a picture of a surface. If we go up and down in an area like that, yes, we can fill in the canvas that way. So if you see here, all my lines are going from side to side, and that helps the imagination a little bit. It gives them a direction and where things are going. So when Gogh did that, I see it there too. So observe his painting and decide what you want to do. This is the color that I wanted to use for here. So let's see, if my color is wet and I want to take a little bit off so I can change it, but I don't want to add too thick of a surface, I will kind of wash it off, let it dry a little bit, and then I'll come back with the color. And actually that red should be right here. This was a good red for this area. I'm trying to observe and go back and forward, fill in, and again moving from side to side, creating the element of dirt ground, definitely not grass. Too much red, but he does have an orangey red here, not exactly like mine. Let's get more yellow. I ran out of yellow. And this is called lemon yellow. Now if I want to get a different yellow, which is more, if I put them next to each other, you're gonna see it has a little bit of orangey in it. And there is the two yellows, super bright. It's called lemon yellow, and then this one has a little bit red in it. So I'm going to do that. Let's get some of the brown in. Now I have been trying since we started this tutorials to use kind of the same paints, because I want, if you guys buy those paints, to be able to use them and to be good money spent. So this goes here. I'll make this even smaller. And if I put this painting into a matting, it's gonna look so cool. So let's get some of the yellows. Add water to it, so I'm trying to spread this paint, not to create a thick layer. Now, if I have used a bigger brush, I'm sure this was going to be much faster painting. Okay. Getting to the edges. And a lot of times I will mark my area So I have paper left because it helps for framing, and also this is not going to happen going to the next paper on the back because it starts warping a little bit. Okay, so River is gonna start a little bit darker. Make that blue again. So the two blues that I have with a little bit of green and white. Water is coming towards us, but also there's ripples in the water. And then we are going to add more white, tiny bit of yellow. Coming out the stream. More white. Almost actually this river disappears around the corner, so curve it, and then I will go back in to close that gap. And right here. So again, I'm going back and forth between the painting that I'm looking at and my own painting, and doing reference between objects, areas, colors, and correcting if I need to. Okay, let's get a little bit of that. Punch this yellow a little bit, just seems so much brighter, and even a little bit of white in it. And this is going to be more orange here, darker orange. So if your color does not look quite the one that you want, you can move on to another area and come back later to it. Wait until it dries a little bit so you can have easier time changing it. Because if it's too wet, it might not allow you to change things. So again, moving my brush from left to right and just playing with brown, yellow, and red. This is pretty much what I'm doing. Also, I realize that my sky is missing right here. So easy fix. Easy fix. Trees. I'm gonna start putting some trees. I'm gonna use brown with a little bit of green and also white. So for the trees on the back, they're very, very light. And I will show you the color that I'm gonna be using. It's very, very light. And again, I'm gonna try a line and see how it is. And I think that's gonna work for me. And I'm gonna create lines all around, looking back and forward between my area that I'm working on and what Van Gogh did in his, and quick reference back and forward. non-stop. Just these ones are tall here, almost to the top, almost. Let's use a little bit of water. So I'm gonna have to let this dry because also there's trees here, but it's very faint foliage looking, and then I'm gonna add the darker, closer trees. So I'm gonna add more lines on this side. There's quite a few. Probably not as much as what I did, but that's okay because again, it's my Van Gogh. So now I have to add a little bit of orange into my brown and green. More green. A little bit of yellow. And I think this is the color. Let me see. Very close. Okay, so this is gonna be the color, and pretty much because this was very thin layer, transparent layer, it absorbed into the paper super fast. So this color, which is yellowish green, I'm going to brush it kind of the way he did, really fast brush strokes, kind of going up and down and just filling it, the area where the trees are on the background. And almost running out of that color. Let's make a little bit more yellow, green, a little bit of brown. It's like olivey. Add white to it, but we want it transparent, so I'm gonna add water inside that color and make sure my brush is not super loaded. And go in here and fill in where I start running out of color. Of orange here, and again using transparent color, a little bit of orange in these trees, so it almost looks like maybe this is fall time. Gonna have to look up on that picture just a little more. Too much. That's okay. So I'm going to get water and just spread it because that's the right color. It was just too thick. I need transparency. All right. So my clouds are disappearing again. So I'm going to boost them up before I continue. This one is a tall one. There. If I got a little too heavy-handed with my trees, now is the time for me to push them down. And then I'm gonna go back in here and make sure they're kind of like ending on top of the clouds, not the clouds to be underneath. Okay. All right. So let's see. Just fixing there, here a little bit, and there a little bit. Duller orange on this side. little bit here. Also, we're gonna go a little ochre right here. I'm gonna add that ochre on this side too. Yellow. Again, I'm touching with that yellow gently on the top of this heel and right here on top of this lift. It looks like that area is a little higher here too. And I'll pull it down and get a little bit of the white. So I'm not going all the way up, but I'm using the white that I catch from the top, or the yellow that I'm catching from the top, and pulling it kind of down and sideways. Okay. There's a little bit of darkness right around the water. And this almost ends more towards us, so I'm gonna change that perspective a little bit. Okay. A little bit of that yellow added here. Perfect. Ochre and white. Just adding some more color into the trees. It looks almost like a transparent peachy color. Okay, so what's left is the close-up trees. I'm going to add ochre and brown, the raw umber, and one of the trees is starting from here and going all the way to the top. And I'm gonna push my brush and twirl around, and it's getting a little too light, so ochre brown and a little bit of black, and it's gonna create a beautiful, so releasing the pressure going upwards. One branch is coming on the side and one more kind of above but very thin, and a few here. Another tree kind of on the background, just going upwards. Right behind the house, another one. The funny part is this tree right here, he has branches that are absolutely horizontal, and let's say you don't like that, don't do it. Another tree right here, so it starts a little bit on the angle and then it goes up and splits. That way. 3 branches go this way. Here, another 3 goes here. I'm gonna get a little bit red and add a tiny bit of a red in my tree. I can see that in his color. And I'm gonna add another branch coming here. One more. There is a tree in front of this house, in front of the fence. So I'm gonna go in. It's not super tall tree, so I'm gonna keep it short. And branches on this side, and also there's another one barely visible right here. Few tall ones on the back. One right here. And I'm gonna just add a few more transparent, emphasizing on the trees. Now he has that same greenish olivey looking hue. So I'm using yellow, ochre, green, brown. Taking it off a little bit of my brush. So do you see how it's barely on my brush? And I will try to do with the Van Gogh thing so he's not making leaves. He's creating an element that represents whatever he wants to represent. So this tree is going sideways. This has a circular and lines upwards. Same thing right here. It almost looks like he just wiped his brush. And the same thing here. This tree here has an orangey hue to it. So I'm gonna do more of that. Again, wiping, and the brush is a little dry, so it's not a wet brush. This one has that orangey too. And I think, let's look and see, there is that tiny tree here. Okay. Alright, so I'm missing a little element from that, and I'm gonna go to a smaller brush. It's a light brown, so I'm gonna use the ochre with a little bit of white. And whatever was in that little pocket, I think it was the three colors. And I'm going to create part of that barn. Go in and just add the lines on a few of the elements. Even though I don't think he did that, I just feel like doing it. And we have, I feel like this could be just wood on the side of the house. It's a little bit of red and brown together. And planks of wood, a little bit of black in here. I barely used the black, so I totally wasted a black. Okay. Dark area right here on the bottom, back and forward. I'm spending a lot of time observing what I'm painting and just touching here and there and just trying to make it the way I want to see it as close as possible. This roof, you're gonna see how always you can go back and touch up little places, just emphasizing. That looks like if I do almost like a tiny angle going inside the barn, you are going to feel like we can go inside and light is hitting this area right there. So I'm gonna try to create that. Go back to that white, dirty white, because my brush is not really clean. Emphasize a little bit on those. They just stick out for me in his painting. So that is almost, it looks like the only element that is emphasized on. I'm just looking at his picture. Let's get the fence a little better. I already have it there. We're just adding to it. It was fast. And we have a darker line right here, which is crooked, not straight. That's good. Good for us. Because we don't have to worry. And then there's lines here. Perfect. A different color coming from the roof to the side. It looks like we could be done. Of course, I'm gonna leave it for a little bit and check it out later. So he does have this line sideways here. I'll leave it on. I'll look at it, see how it makes me feel, and decide if I want to change something. Sign it. That's an important piece. And there we are, another Van Gogh day. So I hope you enjoyed your tutorial, and please let me know what you think. You can comment, and this is it. Don't forget to subscribe. Every Tuesday we have a new tutorial for you. All right, have a good day. Bye bye.